You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. My name is Joshua Bellis. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down with fellow enthusiasts to talk about what's going on in the technology, business, and gaming world. I hope you guys enjoy. So you're probably wondering why I decided to start with the music choice that I did. So in regards to today's episode, it kind of fits in really well, especially that today's episode is mainly going to be revolving around the topic of my experience being a musician. So just to get this out of the way, for the music choice of this week's episode, I really want to give thanks to my friend Wade, and well, he's going by his name BLUECHEEZ. So I like to thank him for his music and allowing me to use it in this episode and possibly being part of some of the music choices in future episodes, but we don't know. We'll figure that out. But I just mainly want to give a shout out to Wade and all the time and effort he put into making his music, and I really hope that he succeeds and does really well with it. Now, on to today's episode. So, like I mentioned, literally just a few seconds ago, today's episode is mainly going to be describing my experience being a musician. Now, you're probably wondering, Josh, I don't really think that being a band student in high school counts as being a musician. So let's go by what the definition of a musician actually is. The definition of musician literally stands for a person who plays a musical instrument, especially as a profession or is musically talented. Now that we know what the definition of a musician is, then we can clearly tell, okay, so yes, I categorize as a musician because of all my years of playing in band. So why do I want to talk about it? Like I mentioned in the earlier episodes, this one is mainly part of the trilogy of getting to know me. And after this week's episode, we're going to start going into the topics themselves, like actual topics in technology, business, and the video game world. We're going to start going into those. But I mainly want to get these out of the way so that we can get a good understanding of who I am and get my feet wet at the same time. So, where do I want to start? I mainly want to start with my time in middle school because it really was the stepping stone for this. It's what leads into the good experiences before we talk about one of the later parts of it. But, so my time in middle school. During middle school, I mainly didn't care about band as much. I'm being real with you. When I was in middle school, band was just a way for me to, I'd say at least just to be useful, if I'm being honest, or if I'm being blunt, that, because during that time I didn't really feel very impactful in people's lives. I didn't feel that I could make a difference in somebody's life, or at least I didn't feel like I was any useful when it comes to many different situations. So that's why I decided to join band in middle school. And in middle school, this was during one of the darker parts of my life where I really wasn't as in a good place as I am right now. So that experience kind of is wonky at times, but I will admit that it did play a role into leading into high school. So during middle school, that's where I mainly learned how to play the instrument that I stuck with for the rest of my time, playing an instrument that I decided to play clarinet. And it was during the 7th grade specifically is when I got switched to bass clarinet. The main reason that was because during that time when I played clarinet, I always squeaked a lot. So that means I was blowing way too much air into my horn. So Miss Schmidt decided to put me on bass clarinet because she's like, okay, if you're using a lot of air, why don't I put you on the bass clarinet? Because that requires a lot more air, and there you won't be squeaking as much in theory. And it worked. I actually didn't squeak that much when I played my bass clarinet, as I spent more time getting used to the horn itself, because I wasn't used to playing a bass clarinet because it requires a lot more air, requires a lot more precision than a normal clarinet. So now we got that out of the way. How does that relate to high school? And that's the big one that I mainly want to spend most of my time talking on, because my high school experience in band was absolutely one of the most impactful things in my entire life that I really can't thank my band teacher enough for everything that happened during that year. During those 4 years, I really can't. Those 4 years of my life were some of the best I've had so far. Why is that? My time in high school band can mainly be described by one word: family. During all 4 years of my tenure in high school, it was really rough. I'll be real with you guys that during those 4 years, every single year of high school, I lost a family member. And that kind of sucked. I'm not going to lie. And during that time, it was really hard because, like I said, I still wasn't in the position that I am right now. Mainly freshman and sophomore year. That's the 2 years that are kind of still dark sheet mode. But it made it better because there was one piece of advice that my friend Victor gave me. Victor told me during my freshman year, he saw that I was crying in a room in the band hall, and he asked me what's wrong. So I told him, I was still sad. I was still upset about everything that happened with my aunt when she passed away a few years earlier, about like 2 years earlier. And I told him, I was sad. And he told me, well, if it makes you feel any better, the people in this band hall treat you as a family. They call you family because the fact that we're all here put together in this whole organization, we are a family because we're all doing the same thing. And to me, that meant a lot because at the time I never had a random group of people that I never met in my entire life call me family. To me, that idea was weird. It didn't make sense. It didn't add up. But as time went by, I started to understand it more. And as that went by, or more specifically, as I spent more time in band in high school, it started to feel like a family. I started to get to know a lot of the guys and girls in the band hall. We always spend a lot of time talking to each other, hanging out. And when I did end up getting into at least a better position in life, that's where things got a lot more helpful because I was able to savor that relationship even more. It was incredible. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm mainly referring to one of the experiences that I had. This was when my brother had passed away, that everyone in the band had made me a card. They didn't need to make me a card. They didn't know about it. The only person that knew about it was Mr. Evans and one of my friends. So my friend decided to go out of his way and have the band sign a card for me because he knew how much I cared about everyone. So when they gave me the card and I showed up to talk to Mr. Evans, it really meant a lot because they didn't need to do that. And I liked how they labeled the card too, because the way that they labeled it made it so much more impactful for me. And I always keep that letter with me. On the card, it had "To Joshua from your band family." It wasn't from the band. It wasn't from such and such. It said band family. And to me, that meant a lot more. The fact that it said family. It was from that point that I started to realize, hey, there's something special going on here. This isn't just your typical high school band with a bunch of kids from different backgrounds, whether it be kids born in the ghetto or kids born in white suburbias. No, there was something different. And going into my junior year, I kind of made it my mission too to make sure that I was loving on that family as much as I possibly could and to be a leader. During my time in high school band, every single year I had always tried out to be a band leader or captain. My freshman year I failed miserably. I definitely was not ready for that position. My sophomore year, because, just to give a more context, the auditions are always held in May near the end of the school year, so it's a little bit weird, but you'll understand. During my sophomore year, my band teacher, Mr. Evans, he told me, your heart's in the right place, but you're not there yet. There's something missing. It was at the start of my junior year that I walked into Mr. Evans' office and I told him, hey, I found that piece you were talking about, but I want to make sure that I spend this entire year preparing myself to be prepared for that role. So when it came around the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, I finally did it. And I finally became a band captain, and it was great. and because I had finally achieved what I wanted to do. And it was very meaningful too, because somebody told me, Josh, you got some pretty stiff competition, man. Are you sure you can do it? Are you sure you can pull this off? And I said, yeah, I'm not afraid this time. Because every single time I went into the audition, I always felt afraid because I knew who I was competing against. I knew who I was auditioning against. But this time I was like, I'm not afraid because I know everything will work out. And as a result of that, Mr. Evans was like, there you go. And it was also because I was very persistent and I kept coming back and kept learning from my mistakes. And that's what he caught on to it. He's like, he's learning. That's good. So when it came to my senior year, when it came to my senior year, that's where things were just incredible. Not only was I captain and people were looking up to me, whether it be as a captain or as a friend needing advice, it was incredible. I mainly say that because that's where I was really coming to terms with what was going to happen and me graduating and everything like that, that I started to savor more of the time, all that time I had to spend with everybody. I always say this, that every time I go back to my high school, that there's a couple of guys that I have my eye on because I'm watching out for them. I'm making sure that they don't repeat mistakes that I've made in my life so that they can at least use my experience as a way to say, hey, it didn't work out for him, so what makes you think it's going to work out for us? And it meant a lot because they listened and they looked up to me for advice, and they always came to me when they needed someone to talk to, or at least they needed some advice, whether it be stuff for school, whether it be stuff how to manage time, or even things like personal stuff. And it meant a lot to me because all that time we got to spend with each other was mainly because of band, and that's how we got to know each other. So to me, in all reality of things, band has been something very impactful in my life. It's not something that I can just wash away from my history and just pretend it never happened, or it isn't something that I can say, yeah, that was great, but it's not there anymore. No, to me, that is something that I will take with me until I die. And there's not even words that I can put together that means how grateful I am for that experience. And obviously, during my time in band, I did a lot of things too. Like, I competed in multiple UIL competitions, whether it be in the 3 types of band that I was in. I was in the concert band, I was in the marching band, and the jazz band. The jazz band portion was mostly during my junior and senior year, while the concert and marching band was all 4 years. But touching on jazz band a little bit, because as you guys have noticed from some of the past episodes, I kind of use a little bit more jazz or more swing and mellow music in the background. That even for this song too, for this from Wade, it uses trumpets and it's more of a jazz beat that I kind of like. And that I mainly attribute to my love of music more because of jazz band. That's where I got to learn more music from the 70s, the 80s, music from the 60s, music from the 40s. I got really more versed in understanding music and how to listen for it, or how to listen to music and listen to it more clearly and focus in on specific portions of music. Now, concert or marching band, obviously, that's mainly what I did throughout middle school and high school. And those were fun times. I really love the marching band stuff because just going to the games and having a great time with the guys and the girls, or more specifically, the entire band, we just get to have fun going to the games together, eat lunch together, and then after the games, we would go and get food together. So to me, those experiences are something very incredible that I hold dear to my heart. But the main question is, why did I not do band in college? Because you get what I'm getting at, that it doesn't make sense. If you had such a great experience in high school and you love listening to music, you love performing music, why didn't you do it in college? And the answer is pretty simple to me. I didn't do band in college because I felt it would be a disservice to my experience in high school. I say this because in college, I honestly don't feel like I'm going to have a better experience than that. Even though, yes, people are like, college is the best time of your life. You're going to have the best experiences here. Everything's going to be swell. There's going to not be any problems. Obviously, that's a load of bull. Like, college is very fun. I'm not going to lie. I love it here. But I will admit that to say that everything is going to be perfect, that there's nothing bad that can go wrong, there's going to be a lot of stuff going wrong my entire 4 years here. I'm going to be real with you. we've already had some issues, like especially today, but there's definitely going to be those days that aren't so good. And that's normal. That's life. But for me in college, band just didn't seem like it was going to be what I wanted to do. That, to me, I told Mr. Evans this, I didn't feel like in college, if I did band in college, for me, that feels like I am trying to replace that experience I had in high school. And I told Mr. Evans that. I told Mr. Evans that I would never pick up my horn again and play for a band in respect to my experience in high school and to respect to them, because they gave me everything. And even though I know that kind of sounds weird, that doesn't make sense, but Mr. Evans understood it, because he's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. He kind of figured that I wasn't going to do it in college too, especially given how good my experience was, because the fact of the matter is I wasn't even a bad player. If we're going by like tiers, I was probably like a mid-carder at best. Like, I wasn't the best player we had. I definitely wasn't. But I'd say at least for my skill set and, you know, being reliable and doing what I needed to do, I could do that. That's why I said I'm probably like mid-tier or mid-carder at best. I wasn't the main event or the showstopper or anything like that. And I was happy with that, because my time in high school, specifically in the band leadership team, was just being a moral compass. That's mainly what I focused on. I mainly focused on helping others when people had issues, when they were going through stuff. When some people were having anxiety attacks, I would talk to them. You know, when some people were going through breakups and stuff like that, I was mainly the one talking to them about, you know, about the situation. And it helped a lot, because a lot of people, they learned from their mistakes. And that's why I said it was more impactful for me that I was able to help people that were younger than me and help them, at least put them in a better direction so that they can understand things a little bit better. Because the only way you're going to learn is as time goes by. Like, you have to learn from your mistakes, be humble about it, and then accept what you've done, and then learn from it and keep going forward. That's what you got to do. That's literally how life operates. I like this quote a lot, and I'm going to pull this up because this is something very important that I really love. This quote here. Let me pull this up. All right, here's the quote. A mistake that makes you humble is better than an achievement that makes you arrogant. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because if a mistake is making you humble, what happens when you finally achieve? Are you going to be arrogant about it, or are you going to be humble about it? Most of the time, people like to brag when they do something great. And that's fine, but it can lead to issues if you don't be mindful and be humble about it. Like, yes, I did this, but I'm not going to let this control my ego, or I'm not going to let this get to me. And the same thing can be said about failure. There's some people that when they fail, they don't really know how to deal with it. And the main thing is just accept that you messed up and then keep moving forward. And that's mainly what I did during my time in band. There was times that I didn't even know how to play the music. I'm going to be real with you. There was times I didn't know how to, but I accepted it, and then I learned. I humbled myself so that I can learn and put myself at the mercy of teachers in order to help me understand how to play this music, how to read this music, what to do in certain situations in the music. And it worked, because that's the whole point about it, is to learn from your mistakes and admit that, hey, if you don't know something, then accept that you don't know it, and then go ask somebody that does. That's mainly how this works. So now that we got that, I mainly want to touch on, I don't know, guys, that it's just when I reminisce about the experiences in band, it kind of gets me. It kind of gets to me a little bit, because it's just it's so meaningful to me. I can't thank everyone enough for that entire experience. That's something that's going to stay with me till the day I die. I'm just being real with you guys. It will. But I think that's really all I wanted to talk about in this week's episode, and discuss my time being a musician and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. I'll probably give you guys a little hint about what next week's episode possibly could be. So for next week's episode, I'm going to be posting a poll on my Instagram page later today. That poll is going to contain 4 topics that I'm looking at. Whichever one of those topics gets the most votes will be what I cover on next week's episode. So make sure you go to the Instagram page, please vote, because obviously that's what we're covering. And yeah, Whichever one gets the most votes will be what I cover. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you guys what my viewpoints or my stances will be on that topic. That'll be reserved for the episode itself. So keep that in mind. But with all that said, I want to take this time again to thank you guys for taking time out of your day and listening to this episode. It means a lot to me that you guys keep coming back and listening to the episodes and giving me feedback on them. It really means a lot to me. I can't thank you guys enough for everything. And I know I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse to death, but I'm really going to enjoy this journey with you guys. So far, this has been incredible. I've learned a lot. Obviously, there's still more to learn, but this entire journey is going to be great, and I'm glad I get to have you guys along with me. So, until next time, guys, hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace out, guys. I love you guys.